The night had settled thick and heavy over the winding roads of the West Virginia countryside. The headlights of James' old Chevy Cutlass carved a path through the darkness, their glow illuminating the dense trees that flanked the narrow two-lane road. The occasional rusted-out road sign whipped past, warning of sharp turns ahead, but James knew these roads well. He had driven through them dozens of times on the way back from visiting his family in Morgantown. In the passenger seat, Emily shifted, stretching her legs and suppressing a yawn. "How much longer, babe?" she asked, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "About an hour, maybe less if we don't stop," James said, gripping the wheel. His knuckles were tight. He didn't like driving these roads at night. There was something about the endless trees, the isolation, that made him uneasy. Then, as if on cue, the engine sputtered. James' stomach clenched. He tapped the gas. The car lurched forward but groaned in protest. A moment later, the check engine light blinked to life on the dash. "You've got to be kidding me," Emily muttered, sitting up straighter. James pulled the car to the side of the road, cursing under his breath. He popped the hood, stepping out into the cold night air. The woods were alive with the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. He lifted the hood and peered inside. The engine steamed faintly, and though he wasn't a mechanic, he knew enough to tell something was very wrong. Emily rolled down her window. "How bad?" "Bad," he admitted. "I don't know if we're making it home tonight." She groaned, rubbing her hands over her face. "Great, just great. There has to be a gas station or something nearby, right?" James checked his phone. No signal. Typical. He sighed and leaned back into the car. "There's a gas station a few miles back off Route 9. We passed it about 15 minutes ago." Emily hesitated, then nodded. "Guess we don't have much of a choice." James restarted the car, coaxing it into motion. It chugged reluctantly but moved forward. He just needed to make it to that station. A closed door. They found the gas station easily enough, a small old-fashioned place with a single rusty pump under a flickering light. But the moment they pulled in, James knew that they were out of luck. The place was dark, its windows covered with metal shutters. A single sign hung in the window, "Closed." Emily sighed heavily. "Well, that's just fantastic." James turned off the car, drumming his fingers against the steering wheel. "Maybe there's a payphone around." "Doubt it," Emily muttered. "This place looks like it's been shut down since the 90s. James stepped out anyway, scanning the area. The building was a squat wooden structure, its paint peeling. An old Coke machine stood off to the side, covered in grime. No payphone, no sign of life. A gust of wind rustled the trees behind the station, and James suddenly felt very small under the endless stretch of the night sky. He got back into the car. "No good. We'll have to keep going and hope we find another one." Emily's eyes were on the gas gauge. "We're almost on empty, James." He exhaled sharply. "We don't have a choice. We have to try." Reluctantly, he started the car again, and they pulled back onto the road. The second gas station. About 10 minutes later, they spotted another gas station up ahead. This one was somehow even worse than the first. It was a squat, grimy-looking building with a sagging roof, its neon open sign flickering erratically. The only light came from a single bulb above the gas pump, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. James and Emily exchanged a look. "Do we even want to stop here?" Emily asked. "Do we have a choice?" James countered. He pulled in, the tires crunching over gravel. A single rusted pickup truck was parked near the entrance. The gas pump looked ancient, the kind that didn't take credit cards. James sighed. He'd have to go inside. "I'll be right back," he said. Emily grabbed his wrist. "Be quick, okay?" James nodded and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of old wood, gasoline, and something else, something metallic. The fluorescent lights buzzed inside, flickering overhead. An old man sat behind the counter, staring at the black and white television with static flickering across the screen. His eyes lifted when James entered, pale and watery. "Help you?" he asked in a slow, drawling voice. James cleared his throat. "Yeah, I need some gas. My car is breaking down." The old man didn't move right away. He just stared at James as if assessing something. Then slowly he nodded. "Pump works, cash only." James dug into his wallet, pulling out a 20. "That enough?" The old man took the bill, still watching James with those unblinking eyes. He gestured toward the back of the store. "You might want to check the restrooms before you go." James frowned. "What?" The old man didn't repeat himself. James hesitated, then shook his head. thanks. He turned to leave, but paused when he noticed something strange. There was a door behind the counter. It was slightly ajar, and for the briefest moment, James swore he saw something move behind it, something pale. A shiver ran down his spine. He forced himself to turn back to the door. As he stepped outside, the night felt heavier. Emily was still in the car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Something is really wrong with this place, she whispered the moment he opened the door. James frowned. What do you mean? She gestured subtly toward the pickup truck. There's someone in there, but they haven't moved once since we got here, not even a little. James turned slowly. Sure enough, there was a figure sitting in the truck, barely visible for the dirty windshield. The silhouette was motionless, unnaturally so. A creeping unease slivered down James's spine. We need to get out of here, Emily whispered. James hurried to the pump, feeding in the cash. The old machine groaned to life, and gas trickled into the tank at an agonizingly slow pace. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the pickup truck's door open, his breath caught. A man stepped out, his features obscured by the shadows, but something about his movements were off. Too slow, too deliberate. James's heart pounded. He yanked the nozzle free, spilling gas on his shoe in his haste. Go, 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 he shouted, jumping into the car. Emily wasted no time, starting the engine and peeling out onto the road. Gravel sprang behind them. James twisted in his seat, looking back. The figure stood in the middle of the gas station lot, watching them. Then the old man stepped outside, joining him. Neither of them moved. The neon open sign flickered once, then went dark. Never again. They drove in silence for nearly half an hour, neither of them daring to speak. Finally, Emily exhaled a shaky breath. What the hell was that? James shook his head. I don't know, and I don't want to know. Emily clenched the wheel. Let's never come this way again. James nodded, staring out into the dark road ahead. Never. The West Virginia roads wound on for the endless night, but one thing was certain. They would never stop at another gas station like that again. Thanks for joining us on the open road, where anything can happen and there's always another adventure right around the corner. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the open road.